Welcome to the Darkstream. Vox Day, voxday.blogspot.com. And sorry I'm late. I was actually on the phone with the Big Bear talking about some of our plans for unauthorized TV. So welcome to the reprehensibles. Welcome to the unauthorized. Welcome to the VFM, to the Dread Ilk, and welcome to all the bears. So good to see you all. Again, sorry for the delay, but it's been a really interesting last couple of weeks. The level of support for the unauthorized has been off the charts, off the chain. Really very pleased to see how it's gotten and how well it's been launched. I mean, it's only been around for 16 days so far, and we're already seeing major developments all over the place. One of the things that we're talking about is if the growth continues and that we're actually looking at getting into the production of real shows and real television stuff beyond this stream sort of thing. What we're interested in doing is bringing back the kind of shows that they used to show prior to what they call the rural apocalypse. A lot of you won't remember, but the most popular shows in the United States used to be shows like The Waltons, Little House on the Prairie, Gentle Ben, or Big Ben. I don't remember which it was. And so all of those shows got destroyed by Brandon Tartikoff. They completely got rid of it all, despite the fact that they were the top shows in the country at the time. This was entirely intentional, trying to get people to focus on the good life in the cities and so forth. But we're seeing that people are turning away from that. We're seeing that even when you're looking at shows like True Detective and so forth. Now, of course, the country, the rural people and so forth are often portrayed as being, creepy and weird and all that sort of thing. But Sammy the Band is right. It's pure Americana. And so we want to do wholesome, quality entertainment. And we think that we can get there with enough support from you guys. Artillery Bear says, Vox, I just finished A Throne of Bones. Thanks for thinking I can do that better and then actually doing it better. A Song of Ice and Fire is weak sauce. Looking forward to A Sea of Skulls. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I think that you will enjoy A Sea of Skulls as well. The general opinion seems to be that it's as good as its predecessor. So, what we're trying to do with unauthorized is to give people access to the kind of things you're not going to find elsewhere. That's why we've got this, that's why we got everything from Piero San Giorgio's survivalist stuff to David Good's gardening stuff. Obviously, Owen has his own unique brand of humor and comedy. I don't really know what I have to offer other than, a high IQ perspective on things. But what we have to offer is what we're doing now. And we're going to try to continue to improve that consistently and reliably and regularly. So, we've already, here's the interesting thing is that we've got 2,200 subscribers to the unauthorized.tv. The total number of YouTube subscribers to all the different people involved is about 500,000. Now imagine if we were able to get 50% of those people, 250,000 people over, get them to come over and actually start subscribing. We would be able to, it would be an absolute game changer. Absolute game changer. Let me address this question here because I think it's a good question. And Tupac Sobieski says, can you have some edgy comedy shows on there too? No. No, no, no. That's absolutely the opposite of what we want to do. Hollywood is about edgy. Edgy is the opposite of logos. Edgy is we're trying to push things to be transgressive. We're trying to be subversive. We're trying to destroy your traditions and your morals without you realizing it. That's the exact opposite of what we want to do. So, now, there does come a point in time where simply telling the truth in a time of lies becomes edgy. So, I understand that from some perspectives, what we're doing will be seen as edgy. But when I hear that, that's what it tells me. Hadrian Bear says, God is good. Put this towards some wine. Thank you, Hadrian Bear. I will do so. David the Good looks like he knows how to cultivate the sensimilia. He knows how to cultivate everything. Maine Peach asks, if I was a first timer to your fiction and you were to suggest a starting point, what would it be? If you like science fiction, I'd say Quantum Mortis. If you like fantasy, I would say just dive in with A Throne of Bones. Might as well go right into the deep end. Any advice for new authors that just finished their first book? Yes, get it self-published up on Amazon. Don't waste time pursuing the conventional publishers. What do you think of Molyneux? I like Stefan. I think he's a very intelligent man. I think he's a good man. And I think that he has a lot to offer. Do you have a favorite kind of wine? Yes, my favorite wine is probably Celeste from Torres Vineyards. Chris Scheuer is correct. We have to build alternatives to defeat the beast. We do. We can't expect to live on the platforms of the people who hate us. Now I'm fine right now on YouTube. They have nothing. They have no excuses to censor me or ban me or kick me off. But that doesn't mean that they won't do it eventually at some point in time. And so that's why we created unauthorized.tv. That's why you're going to see Owen and others moving there more and more. We've already seen the first exclusives going up there. I don't know if you're aware, but his Denver show is exclusively available on unauthorized. David the Good has a couple really great gardening specials that are also exclusive there. I'm going to be producing some exclusive book reviews and so forth. We're going to be gradually moving more and more there as our features and capabilities grow. And so, right now there are certain things that we can do on YouTube that we can't do directly on unauthorized, like super chats and so forth. But, why should, Owen's banned from doing super chats, so he's got no reason to use it. Let's see here. Yeah, Sargon is not intellectually formidable. Bonanza in space, just a thought. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of great ideas. But like I said, I want to see, what we want to do is we want to create logos. We want to create entertainment that is based in truth, and is based in goodness, and is based in beauty. That's what we'd like to do. And that's what we're going to work towards doing. No, I wouldn't debate Sargon, and Sargon would not debate me. He had a little run-in with me on Twitter, and it didn't go well for him. You also need to get over this whole debate thing. It's not very interesting. Let's see. Just started reading St. Thomas Aquinas. That guy had some logos. No question at all. No question at all. Yeah, my first review that's going to be up on Unauthorized is going to be my review of Ben Shapiro's The Right Side of History. I don't watch boxing or MMA anymore. I used to watch, I watched MMA like the first 4 or 5, and then I lost interest. Our Doom says, thank you for your words. You are welcome. And Nat Clo thinks Unauthorized TV will be bigger than InfoWars. I think that it will. I won't, I mean, there are two different things, really. InfoWars wants to be a news, cable TV news channel. We want to be a proper channel. We want to be more like a, you know, an ABC or something. Did you ever have Japanese citizenship? No. No. Fox, what's your IQ again? You haven't mentioned in the last 5 minutes. White wine or red wine or both? Definitely red. I mean, I like Prosecco. I like Cava. But I am much more a red wine drinker. Will most of the content on Unauthorized TV still be free for us poor plebs? Most of it is free, and most of it will continue to be free. We've committed to hours of free content every day. Owen's streams will be free. My streams will be free. A lot of the other stuff, a lot of, you know, David the Good's basic gardening stuff, Piero's basic survival stuff, a lot of that stuff is going to be free. But as we start producing more premium content, high level content and so forth, that's the stuff that is going to be for the subscribers. And so, you know, and the thing is, it's inexpensive. You know, we intentionally priced it at a point where, you know, for $10 a month, you're getting hours and hours of video every day. And that's going to continue. I mean, we're already at the point, you know, when we first worked out the deal, we're like, yeah, we're going to need like 5 hours of content every day. And they're like, really? That's a lot. We said, well, pretty sure we'll fill it up pretty quickly. And, you know, sure enough, there's already been days where we've put more than 5 hours of content up. So, Vino stream quando? Non lo so. I did not watch Alex Jones on CNN. Let's see. Hivox, will Unauthorized have one show specifically focused on young males? I don't know. We have no plans for anything like that yet. Dustin says, do Owen's beefs not hinder the potential growth of Unauthorized? Not in the slightest. There's nobody that he has any issues with that is ever likely to be on there in the first place. You know, Joe Rogan is not going to come move his show to work with us. He doesn't need to. He's got a massive audience of his own. Alex Jones has his own network. You know, I wouldn't want a Ben Shapiro or a Jordan Peterson on us. I mean, this is the alternative to nonsense like that. And so, you know, we'll see. Is bandwidth a problem? No, not at all. No, we probably will not invite Varg to join unauthorized. I don't have a particular problem with him, but we're not about atheism. That's, you know, he's a very outspoken atheist, and that's fine, but we're not atheists, and we are not going to launch a show that is devoted to advocating something that we don't believe. Dr. Britton said, no, he says, just let unauthorized grow organically. Vox doesn't need these constant, are you willing? No, I don't mind it at all. I mean, it's only been around for 16 days. We're still figuring out what we're doing, and we're still figuring out what we want it to become. And, you know, it's going to be, different as time goes on. It's going to keep improving. I mean, look at Castalia House. Look how small Castalia House was when it started, and look at how we're doing, you know, all kinds of print. We're doing comics. We're doing audio books. We're doing all kinds of things. And so I think people are going to be very, very surprised to see how it develops. It's possible that Milo will join at some point in time. You know, he's got his own things. No, Ostrich, they're not going to have to be opposing viewpoints. We don't have to do anything like that, and we're definitely not going to have any atheists pushing atheism on the unauthorized. That's not what we want. And so, okay, I'm going to get rid of this Ostrich person. The whole thing would become an echo chamber. Okay, you're retarded. You're literally too retarded to watch this stream. That is one of the dumbest thing. You see, this is like total gamma thinking, you know, unless there's somebody who is criticizing what you're doing, then what you're doing becomes an echo chamber. No, it doesn't. Do you think that you are even capable of echoing me? You want to talk about my IQ again? Let's talk about my IQ. If your IQ is 30 points lower than mine, 40 points lower than mine, you are not capable of even understanding what I'm saying well enough to echo it directly. You know, gosh, I mean, there's that whole concept of you must allow people who are going to going to bite your ankles and snipe at you. That is intrinsically gamma thinking. Every single person who comes up with that line of nonsense is a gamma. And you know why they do it? Because they want to try to keep from getting kicked out. Doesn't work. You know, there's plenty of disagreement. I mean, if you think that there isn't disagreement, visit my blog sometime. You know, nobody agrees with me on everything. Owen doesn't. Stefan Molyneux doesn't. I don't even agree with myself from 5 years ago. So, what are your thoughts on Red Ice and the hosts? I think they are, I think that they've got the goal of saving their nations. I respect that, and I enjoyed my conversation with them when I was on Red Ice, I think 2 years ago. So I've no issues with them whatsoever. Baron von Metzgenstern says, you give yourself better constructive criticism from self-reflection than most of your critics could provide. Saw that with evolution and with the labor argument against free trade. Well, I do spend a lot of time gaming out criticism of my own thinking, because that's how I test my own thinking. I think a lot of people forget that I am a game designer, and so one of the things that I have to do on a regular basis is think through how I can break what I'm planning to do, or how somebody else can break what I'm planning to do. People don't realize how much time you have to spend not designing the game itself, but designing how the game is going to recover when people do things that are not part of playing the game the right way. So, if it is Christian, then why invite a sodomite like Milo? Because Milo is a Christian as well. Also, Milo is my friend. And so, why wouldn't I invite Milo? He's not going to be running around, advocating his lifestyle all the time. He doesn't. Travis Moss says, all the attacks I've seen of you have been ad hominem. None of them can seem to tell you how you're wrong. Well, of course not, because they don't focus on the ideas. All they're doing is trying to discredit and disqualify. I'm not really interested in Gavin McInnes. I've never had any interest in him. I understand that he's been persecuted by some of the same people that have tried to deplatform and criticize me, and I'm sympathetic, but I've literally never watched or seen anything that he's done at all. And, the fact that he created Vice and that sort of thing would tend to indicate that what he wants to do is probably not in line with what we would like to do. So, again, I'm not saying that people all need to be exactly like what we do. Piero's not a Christian, but Piero also is not. He's not addressing religion and philosophy and that sort of stuff. So, and I like Piero very much. So it's really about what people want to do, and it's not about who they are. It's about what they want to talk about and what they have to offer. Pale Rider Bear says, I know you're not interested in YouTube. That Alex told Owen he's not welcome on InfoWars less than a week before Rogan went on InfoWars and did a show with Alex. Okay. I'm not, I don't care. I mean, honestly, it's not me. I don't know why people do things, and I don't necessarily care. Enrique Lau says, using my free super chat. Awesome Streambox. Let's see. John, you don't know what you're talking about. Like I said, I'm friends with Milo. I talk to Milo more than you probably would think. I got to get that. Oh my gosh. Owen sent me a hilarious chicken hawk image with Shapiro. I've got to, I'll get that posted tomorrow. It's really funny. Um, Sound's cutting off again. Okay, that's too bad. I was hoping that that was taken care of. Um, so the Ballad of Creepy Joe. Yeah, that was just a name that occurred to me. I was thinking Owen should totally write a song called The Ballad of Creepy Joe. Just all about how, how nice a woman's hair smells and that sort of thing. Anyhow, there's not really too much to talk about with regards to Joe Biden, except for the fact that why now? I mean, this is a picture from, years ago. There's all kinds of pictures and video clips of Joe Biden doing the same thing, looming over a woman, putting his hands on her shoulders and her arms and either kissing her head or smelling her hair or that kind of stuff. I mean, we've all seen this. So why are women suddenly coming forward and talking about it? And the reason, I think, is that the Democratic Party has decided that it is no longer a party for white politicians. And this is something that I predicted years ago. You can see it on the blog. I wrote about it. I talked about how the Republican Party was, even though it doesn't want to be, the Republican Party is now the white party. And the Democratic Party is now the not white party. You can't be the not white party and be led by white people. And so that's why Hispanic woman, her name was Flores, was the one to have come forward and said that Biden creeped on her. And I think that what the Democratic Party establishment is doing is they're letting Biden, and to a lesser extent Hillary Clinton, know that they are no longer welcome to be the standard bearers. So I think it's interesting too that you've got this fake character, Buddy Geek or whatever his name is. He's a complete deep state caricature. He's got no genuine popularity whatsoever. The media is attempting to create him, but I think they've made a mistake because, again, he's white. And so I don't believe that he's going to get any traction. I don't believe that he's going to be acceptable to the Hispanic, Asian, Omar wing of the Democratic Party, which is where all of their enthusiasm now is. And so, we'll see. That's just my read on the situation. That's just my impression. And so, I think that we'll have to wait and see. I think Buddha Oneness is right. American Macron. I mean, but Macron was able to get parachuted in and win because we're desperate to keep out the Front National. He's not going to win re-election because everybody hates him now. When do you think they'll cannibalize Pelosi? I think they already have. She's already been forced to back down. I mean, she's supposed to be the head of the House, and yet she had to back down when Omar refused to retreat from her position on AIPAC. Foregone is correct. This is showing the different groups vying for power within the Democrats. Will this eventually spread to all other political parties? Well, there is only one other political party. And no, because what's going to happen there is that the Jewish financial interests are going to attempt to continue to dominate the Republican establishment, but they're going to trying to limit the Christians and the nationalists. And I don't believe that they're going to be able to do so because that's the main point of conflict between the white party and the not white party. So let's see. That was actually kind of funny. Sorry, I missed that comment, but it was amusing. Somebody mentioned that in reference to people criticizing my arguments, his wife is a biologist and was unable to effectively criticize my points about evolution, and apparently she hasn't recovered from that yet. So yeah, it's a little bit it's a little bit difficult for people, I think, sometimes when they find out that when somebody violates their assumptions, and then they suddenly realize that the person actually knows what they're doing with. Hendria says, hi Vox, do you think the deal with Gavin McInnes and Sam Hyde is that they bring young males to the right, and that is why they were banned from everywhere? Possibly. You know, I don't know. I have no idea why Gavin McInnes is banned and attacked the way that he is. You know, I would have thought that he'd be the kind of person that they would want to encourage people to follow, because what they really don't want them to follow is they really don't want them to move in the direction of Christianity and nationalism. Does Gavin McInnes help move them that way? I don't know. Sam Hyde? I don't know. Let's see. Do you go to a barber or shave your own head? I just trim it myself. It's not exactly difficult. I don't know what you are about to say goodbye. I can feel it. No, I'm not. What are you talking about? How do you rate Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time? Not very well. I would give it about a 3 of 10. It's just, it started off with a lot of promise, and then it just continually went downhill. I actually stopped reading it after number 7 or so. Do you think ultranationalism is a sensible term? Not really. I mean, what it essentially means is nationalism that goes violent. You know, when I think you can consider it ultranationalism when you start actually ethnically cleansing people. You know, so I would say that right now, Myanmar is ultranationalist because they are actively ethnically cleansing the Rohingya. You know, you could argue that Israel is probably the closest after that, but they're not. You know, despite the settlers, they're not actively ethnically cleansing the Arabs from Israel. So they're not ultranationalist in the way that they are in Myanmar. Did you see that? Yeah, I've seen that the ban's on Chick-fil-A. You know, that's where we're seeing the breakdown. I mentioned this last night. We're seeing the breakdown of the social and political order in the United States. I told you that the whole thing is going to fall apart in the 2033 timeframe. That's what we are now seeing. That's what we are in the process of seeing playing out. What didn't I like about the Witcher books? Lots of things. There was way too much, super waifu stuff. I did like the way that it was very soundly rooted in Slavic and Polish mythology, which was really cool. But I didn't like the somewhat incoherent nature of the overall stuff. I think that it got a little bit weaker as it went on. Also, my understanding is that the English translation was not very good. I didn't think it was particularly well written, but I had heard that it wasn't the author's fault. Yeah, if you're just going to come on here and attack Owen, I'm just going to delete you. So just, keep that in mind. Same with Milo. If you're just going to come on here and delete and talk trash about Milo, I will also delete you. Stormlight Archive is okay. If I gave Wheel of Time a 3, I would give that a 5. Nick says, I still have hope for America. I still have hope for America too. I just don't have hope for the United States. The nation will survive. The imperial political unit probably will not. What countries do you think will be the first to start civil war? Well, France is practically on the edge of it. No, I've never had a prophetic vision. Travis Moss, what would become of the region of the U.S.? Same thing that happens everywhere that a empire crumbles apart. It is replaced by a series of smaller political entities. No, we're not going to talk about Alex Jones at all. I'm not interested in talking about Alex. Do you think the Burmese have a right to expel the Rohingya? Yes. Any thoughts on what jobs are good for women who would rather be breeding? Anything that you can do at home. Main Peach says, your bar is so high, Vox. Can't wait to check out A Throne of Bones. What series would you rate highly? Well, obviously Lord of the Rings. The Dark is Rising. The Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander. I like The Secret Tales of Paradise by Tanith Lee. So that should keep you busy for a little while. Margot says, not trying to be a dick, but what do you mean by the American nation will survive? Honest question, who are these people? They're the descendants of the posterity of the founding fathers. There's still tens of millions of them. Dr. Britain still has hope for England, so do I. It's trying to survive against its own government. Like many other nations these days. Julian Daw says, hi there, Vox. Not here to say much, just wanted to support. Thanks very much. Hope your family is doing well. They are doing very well. And all your team around. David, Owen, and the bunch, stay true. Always keep it real, the best. We're trying to. We're actively trying to. What did I like about the Malazan books? They're very different and very inventive. Totally incoherent. But they're very original. Robert Bard says he's really enjoying Unauthorized TV. I'm delighted to hear it. Natural Healing. I don't know anybody, and so anything that's outside my range of experience, we're probably not likely to do very much with. Updates on the puppy. I'm delighted to be able to say that the Ridgeback is doing very well. He's up to 41 kilos, and he's doing really well. So, so we're very happy about that. Thoughts on Peter Turkin? I think he's got a really unique and interesting way of looking at societal stress. Highly recommend his most recent book. Yeah, we had a brief warning about the stream issue. Dropped some frames or something. Al Rafai says, geographically speaking, do you have any ideas as to which parts of the U.S. would be the best to move to when the collapse comes? If you wait until the collapse comes, it is way too late. You have to do it now. You can't sit around waiting until the last possible minute, because you're not going to have anywhere to go, and you're not going to be welcome if you go there. If you go there, then you'll probably get shot. They're not looking for people like you to come then. What you want to do is you want to go and be around people who are like you. So it depends on who you are. It's a very different perspective if you are Korean, if you're black, if you're American Indian, if you're white. You want to be around people who are like you, look like you, think like you, are compatible with you. So that's what you need to do. You need to figure, I can't tell you where you should be, because it depends who you are. I am not familiar with Catherine Austin Fitz. I was just offered a male Siberian Husky puppy. I love Siberian Huskies. They're great. They're really great. No, I've never... Oh, the Saxon stories. Are you talking about Bernard Cornwell? I've read those. I've never watched The Last Kingdom. Where's a good place to start for an illustrator who wants to make their work known? Put it on DeviantArt. Put it on ArtStation. We look at those sites all the time when we're looking for new artists and so forth. I mean, the main thing, the most important thing is to not live in a urban environment. Find something else to do. Trash Panda almost got bit by a Rhodesian Ridgeback. Yeah, you don't want that to happen. Take your hand off. Yes, the Trumpslide is happening. I'd feel a lot better. I'd feel certain about it if he would do a bit more swamp draining or wall building. But in general, if you look at the way that the Democratic Party is falling apart, and the way that they're pushing people who are totally unelectable and totally uninteresting to the average white voter, I think that it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. I don't have an opinion on Ann Coulter's criticisms of Trump. I mean, I think that many of them are well founded, but I don't think that she's giving him enough benefit of the doubt. And I don't know if that stuff that Q has said is true or not. I just don't know. Let's see. Any thoughts on the Khazar theory? It's false. They've done the DNA analysis of the population. The whole Khazar thing is not true. I mean, some of the story may have been true, but that's not. What if your children were not as smart, Vox? What if they weren't? You'd love them anyhow. What are your thoughts on the $20 trillion debt crisis in America? Well, that's probably part of what's going to help bring apart the collapse in the 2033 timeframe. Daniel's looking for farms in the hills of Sicily. That sounds like an awesome lifestyle. What country do you think is closer to a Yugoslavia-style breakdown, USA or France? Definitely the USA. France is nowhere nearly as divided as the US is. How was the Ridgeback with kids? Depends on the Ridgeback. You know, the first Ridgeback we had was absolutely phenomenal with kids. Just absolutely, I mean, could not have possibly been better. I've never seen a dog as good with kids. If the baby would crawl on her, she would hold herself absolutely still, like practically hold her breath, just to like not risk the baby getting like falling off or anything. But another Ridgeback, the second Ridgeback that we had was a rescue, and part of why we ended up with her was because she couldn't be around. She was jealous of the second baby, and they couldn't have the dog around small children. So, you know, it depends. But you always need to be very, very careful. Vox, do you ever feel the questions you answer put you in a questionable position? Is that a trick question? Aren't you, if you're taking questions, aren't you by definition in a questionable position? No, I mean, there's people ask me gotcha questions all the time. They've been doing it since 2001. You know, that's part of the game. That's part of the, you know, people will come on this stream and ask questions specifically to try to get me kicked off YouTube or to get me to discredit me in some way, shape, or form. Most of the time I just ignore those questions. You know, it's not like it's hard to recognize them. There's nothing more to say about the French versus the USA divisions. Look at the demographics. The USA has been invaded by over 85 million foreigners. That's not true of France or any of these other countries. The percentages are much, much smaller. So that's why the situation in the United States is going to be worse. Why do you think the entertainment industry and the intelligentsia are so against nationalism? Because they're dominated by neo-Palestinians who believe that they are safer if there are no other nations to exclude them. I mean, this is not a secret. This is something that they've been writing about for decades. Pale Rider Bear says, what's your thoughts on two-party dominant system versus system with more influential parties? It's very clear that the parliamentary systems are better. Do you think it's important leaders are elected by at least 50% of the voters? No. Do you see the parties continuing to be divided left-right? No, because they're already not. I've written repeatedly about how the whole concept of left and right is increasingly irrelevant. All that matters is on the political spectrum, on the political side, globalism, nationalism, and on the deeper side, Christianity versus anti-Christianity. And so that's why people like Ben Shapiro are trying to weaken the Christian side. That's why they're pushing things like, you know, nonsense like Judeo-Christian values, because they are attacking Christian values. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to weaken it, adulterate it, water it down. Jerry Lee says, "You look Asian. Has anyone checked you?" I'm part American Indian. John D just sends some hand signals. No, I'm not a neocon. Maniac Bear said, I was just going to say globalism, nationalism, Christianity against Antichrist. Well, yeah, that's the, if you look at those religious individuals who are still waiting for a Messiah, the description they give of the Messiah is essentially identical to the one that is given for the Antichrist. So, do the math. DNA doesn't lie, dude. He's clinging to the Khazar myth. It doesn't matter how well documented it is. If it doesn't show up on the DNA, it's not true. DNA doesn't lie. If the American polity dissolves, how bad will the violence be? In general, the level of violence is usually proportionate to the amount of people that have moved. Since the United States has seen the biggest movement of people in the history of man, the chances are pretty good that the level of violence is going to be on the Cultural Revolution level, like the 100 million people level. That may not be the case. We hope it won't be the case. But if you just look at the historical trends, that's what you would predict. Who reads what you write? Tens of thousands of people. I mean, you realize that for nearly 2 years, I was the best-selling political philosopher on the planet. I don't know what's going to happen when it kicks off in Europe. I have definitely not seen Tila Tequila's YouTube channel. Spamming, what about me in order to gain Vox's validation is a gammatel, stop it. Yeah, just stop it in general. Nobody cares, I mean, learn to apply the basic concepts. I'm highly confident that Paul Wolfowitz is not the Antichrist. I am highly confident it is not Jared Kushner either. I haven't read Tucker Carlson's book. I don't want to jump so. What are your opinion on historians Will and Ariel Durant? Not bad. It's a reasonable place for basic history. Yes, I've heard of Roosh V. Roosh is a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's a truth seeker. Pickle Pants got Throne of Bones on Audible. Loves the book, but he's having a hard time remembering the character names. It is tough. The Roman names are difficult enough that I actually put in an appendix at the end of the book explaining how they work. It's really confusing because there's a lot of, I tried to make it as clear as possible by giving them different third names. But it's really confusing because you'd be amazed at how many Romans had the same name for the son, the father, and the grandfather. Totally confusing. Even worse is with the women. They didn't really have names, different names. And so they were all just, given, I kind of cheated by saying things like Severa, Severina, and Severilla, but realistically, they would have just been all called Severa. Epic Karma says, do you think teachers are making work too easy for students and this causes them not to retain info in class? No, it's not the teachers. The teachers are like, they all have 95 IQs. The teachers are too stupid to have any direct influence themselves. The problem is that the entire system is designed to intellectually lobotomize the students. I don't have any thoughts on David Irving. Would you advise against a teaching job in a private school? No, not necessarily. How many languages can you carry out conversations in? 4. English, Italian, German, French. I used to be able to speak Japanese quite conversationally, but I would need to spend a month brushing up on it before I could, really engage in conversation. I do remember enough Japanese that the occasional phrases and that sort of stuff, that I can occasionally surprise people, Japanese people, with it. It was kind of funny. I was at a meeting in Budapest, and this Italian guy, who I think he had a business in Switzerland or something, but he definitely spoke fluent German and Italian. And he was introducing me to some of his clients. And he's like, you gotta meet this guy. He's an American, but he speaks German and Italian too. It's amazing. And so, anyhow, 2 of his clients were Japanese. And so, I said hello. And then I said, hello, it's nice to meet you in Japanese to them. The guy just about passed out. He was so excited and happy, but it was, I felt like I was a pet seal doing tricks or something. Yeah, I learned German in high school. I had a great German teacher. Feel bad for Americans. You have Arabs, Hapas, and etc. that think they are white. Identity is so screwed up that will likely make the violence worse. Quite possibly. Quite possibly. That's one of the unfortunate things. Yeah, I've read Peter Hitchens. Not really a big fan. No, I'm not going to give you a demonstration. All that does is get the gammas in critical mode. Call Blue says, Q exposed him as a psyop again when he went after Coulter. See Susie Dawson's excellent takedown. Yeah, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. We'll see. All I know is that, again, Q is much more reliable than the mainstream news. And one last question, then we're going to call it. Thoughts on the rising legalization of marijuana across the United States? Bad or good? It's probably bad, but I think the reason for it is to keep the populace as mellow as possible. No, I'm not going to speak any Deutsch for you. So anyhow, well, that's all we've got time for tonight. So have a good evening. Our typical bear, I'll get to I'll get to any super chats that come in later tomorrow. Have a good evening. If you haven't signed up yet for unauthorized.tv, I encourage you to do so at your first opportunity. That's going to be increasingly our primary base of operations, and we're going to be introducing new stuff very, very soon. So look forward to seeing you soon. This is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.